I am from Poland, University of Silesia, and I've made some final project about damaged and undamaged trees and classification using random forest. So actually, some part of this project is based on geocomputation, and some other smaller part is based on random forest modeling. Okay, so here's some brief description. This project, the aim of this project was to just to model if the tree was damaged or not damaged with the usage of random forest technique. And I conducted this analysis for one of Polish national parks. It is located in Gorce Mountains. Here you can see the location, and these green dots, these are monitoring plots in which some tree censuses, tree inventories were conducted every 5 years, I think since 1992. And my project was based on data from these tree inventories. Each such plot, it is a circle of with radius of 12 meters. So it depends. In some plots there are like 60 trees, in some others there are only 10 trees, but these trees were monitored, and data about these trees were collected every 5 years since 1992. And such tree inventory can also tell something about if the tree was damaged or not damaged. So the main causes of tree damage on this area are insects, so mainly bark beetles, and also wind damages. Okay, so this is, I think this is the background, and just to go to geocomputation part, I needed to do some cleaning and pre-processing of this data. Maybe I will show also the data just to have some look on the data, on the structure of this data. So these are the data in the Excel format, and I was mainly using this sheet. So here is one row means one single tree, and here is the information about the species, and here for each year there are information about diameter of the tree, height, volume, and also the area of the G is maximal area of breast height cross section. So we have such information for each tree, and for 6 tree inventories. So I needed just to aggregate this data and calculate few variables using Python. So I calculated for each tree these 4 variables, because I just needed to select the maximal value of this data from each tree, since from these 6 tree inventories. And there are also information in this database about if the tree was damaged or not. So if the tree was damaged, there is information about the cause of this damage. So I also counted the number of I also counted if the tree was damaged or not damaged, and it was the base for the modeling. Okay, but maybe just we should have take a look at this code. So these are the modules that I have used in Python. Okay, just don't worry about this because I have done it in the other computer, so I don't have here installed this module. But here is this code. So I just like in the beginning, read the data, then selected only data about tree diameter, rename these columns, then some preprocessing, some filtering, and here I counted the number of all string codes of damage. So these are different codes that mean different kinds of tree damage, and here some pre-processing, converting to numeric, and here just aggregation, because from these 6 columns I needed to extract max value from 6 columns of G, of D, and of this one. So and then I created some new data frame with to analyze only data about the species, and I've made some short statistics about the which species are dominant in this area. So you can see it right here. So actually there are 3 main species: spruce, beech, and fir. And this the share of each of these species is quite even, because the biggest is share of spruce, around 35%, and your other two ones have low share, but you can see that they together they compose for the majority of trees in this area. Okay, so here's some further computations, and finally I managed to retrieve some data frame with three variables. And then I performed terrain analysis, because I wanted to check if the terrain has an impact to the tree damage on this area. And for this analysis, I used digital terrain model and digital surface model downloaded from Polish Institute of Geodesy and Cartography. And this download can be done automatically using this library in R environment, Godziek. So here you can see some links to documentation, and these data are only for Poland, but if you are doing some analysis, maybe it would be necessary some. So you can just automatize downloading DM tiles using in R using this library. Can just read shapefile for the area, and then check which data are available, and in the data frame you can filter the data using different conditions. For example, if it is a digital terrain model, what is the height reference, what format, which resolution, and then you can use just one single function from Google library to tile download, just to download tiles and save them in one folder. So similarly, I did for the DSM, and Further analysis was conducted using GDAL. So I merged all the tiles of the digital terrain model and digital surface model, and I've also calculated vegetation height model by subtracting and also using GDAL. Just to visualize the topography of this area, it is something like this, like so here and here, these are the highest parts. And then I computed few DTM derivatives, also using R, some slope, aspect, and also grade library in R. It is RSaga CMD. Using this library, you can access lots of functions from Saga GIS and run them from R. So I computed aspect, slope, and also the topographic wetness index, horizontal, vertical curvatures, wind exposition index, and terrain ruggedness index. And then I computed zonal statistics. I did it in Python. So here I read the shapefile with these monitoring plots shown here. And then just to create buffer. And for these buffers of each 12 meters buffer of each of this plot, I calculated zonal stats using some for loop in Python. Actually, I did it in using also raster stats package because this function zonal stats, I think it's from raster stats package. And for each DM derivative, I calculated min, max, average, and the standard deviation for each research plot, for each monitoring plot. And then there is just some data processing and saving data. Mainly for this purpose, I used GeoPandas and Pandas libraries. Okay, so here we can go to the modeling part, and I tried to apply random forest, actually random forest classifier. So the function from sklearn, and then here I did some preparations to select the variables. During some previous tests, it turned out that such big number of variables is not very good for this model. So I decided just to remove some variables and try with smaller number of variables. Then I also had to remove some ambiguous data because some plots had the same number. There were, I think, 5 such plots, so I needed to. So I decided just to exclude them from this analysis, just to avoid this ambiguity. And here is also some computation, and I also decided just to exclude rows with not number data from final data frame with predictors. So I dropped them with using this function, and finally I take into consideration such number of trees. So such number of observations. And here I applied the random forest classifier using the code, mainly the code explained in this website. So it's quite similar to random forest regressor, because I also needed to create a data set with predictors, with response variable. But like here, the response variable had two values. It has value 1 if the tree was damaged, and 0 if the tree was not damaged. So I used 36 predictors, and here are the name of these predictors, and we can see it later on. And here are some random forest parameters that I used. 0.5, the split of train and test size, and I used 100 trees. And here are also some additional arguments for random forest classifier. So min samples leave and max features. And then I tried to assess the accuracy of this classifier with two metrics, accuracy and ROC AUC. And here you can see the metrics for this model that I ran. And also I've checked the feature importance, and the final outcome of this is this plot, maybe. So it turned out that the most important is the number of years in which tree was growing. So presumably it is a proof that the older the tree is, the more prone to damage it can be. And also single tree features are very important. And it turned out that the topographic parameters seems to not have a significant influence in case of this modeling. But actually it can also be some result of the data structure, because actually I had some data for, I had data for single trees, like for these variables, and for the other ones the data were somehow doubled, because for example mean slope, it was only for one number for one research, for one monitoring plot. So when on the plot there was if there was let's say 50 trees, so each of these trees had the same number of slope mean. So it also may somehow affect this modeling, the data structure. And presumably maybe I can, in the future, I can try to use some other techniques and to model this, and maybe try to model only wind damaged trees, just exclude damage from bark beetles. So I think there are some perspectives in this area. Okay, so I think that's all. If you have any questions, something was not clear, I am ready to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Janusz. Very, very good. And you really merge different language, Python, Bash, you use GDAL, you use R, and this is the beauty that you can really get the best for each single language. Can you remind, concerning the modeling procedure, can you remind what is V, G, and D, the variable V?
These ones?
Yes, please.
These are right here. So D, it's maximal diameter at breast height.
Okay, and volume.
This is maximal tree volume, and G is maximal area of breast height cross section.
Okay.
Okay.
And these are the important one. Okay. And be careful about how do you treat the aspect? Have you done something in particular?
For aspect, I just treated it like the other terrain variables, so not.
So anyone knows what is going on with the aspect? Perfect. Yeah, it's a circular variable. So, you know, 1 and 3 and yeah, 359 is pretty close. So always when you use circular variable, you have to use sine of the aspect and cosine of the aspect. So one is emphasized the north-south, and the other one is emphasized the east-west. Okay, so be careful. That's why maybe it's not so important. I would expect it. The damage was due to wind, or which kind of damage were the tree? Fell in general, or thunderstorm? And
from wind, it was mainly two kinds, like uprooting or tree breakage.
okay.
And, I think the majority of damage is from bark beetle, but like some 1/3 is from wind, I think, in this area.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other question for Janusz? Okay, so yes, so maybe try also to implement the, now that you get an idea about with the random forest how it works, try to reach something closer also with the neural network. Okay.